Welcome to Stories Down Under.
My name is Francisca. I'm a financial accountant. I've worked in Australia corporate for about 10 years in different areas of accounting.
Hi guys, my name is Stella Adlike. I am an accountant as well. I have worked in corporate Australia for the last 5 years. Fran here is a friend and a mentor to me, and today I am very excited about the topic that we're going to be discussing, which is challenges that we experience as women of color in corporate Australia. So just a disclaimer before we get started, I think we would like to reiterate that these are not just our stories, but those of our friends, of family members, of colleagues, of different people of diverse backgrounds that have shared that the challenges that they experience. So I think I'll start off by just speaking about one challenge that I experienced, especially as somebody who was new to Australia and new to the field of accounting. I experienced the lack of mentorship. And for me, because my undergraduate is in economics and I later did a master's in professional accounting at Curtin University and started my accounting sort of career in Australia from scratch. So I had to learn the debits and the credits and etc. from the word go. And my first job, I found it really difficult to navigate the new profession. So there was no one to show me this is how it's done, this is how you follow the policies and procedures, this is the work culture in Australia. There was no one to help me in that regard, and I struggled quite a bit because I had to learn a lot of things by myself. Even the colleagues that were more advanced in that space, who were actually working as maybe senior accountants, it was very hard for me to sort of create that bond with them that they would actually guide me to advance in my career. And that's a challenge that I experienced actually up to date. I'm so thankful to have Fran. But also, just in the company that I work with it's very hard to find people who you can actually bounce off your ideas and people who can guide you and show you how to actually, for example, get a promotion at work. Exactly. So I think the way I've been able to navigate that space is trying to seek mentors, not outside my company, for example, finding people like Fran, and also finding other mentors through listening to audiobooks, reading books, listening to other accountants, for example, being a member of CPA Australia. So that has actually helped me navigate that space. So I don't know about you, Fran, how has been your experience and what are some of the challenges you've experienced as well?
Yeah, I think it's really important, on just adding on to what Stella has said, it's really important to have a proper channel with a proper mentorship, but also it's important to really look around and see who exactly you would like to be your mentor, someone who really understands your background, someone who really understands where you come from and the direction where you're progressing in life. Mm-hmm. As for me, the first challenge that I would think of, having worked in Australia for the first time, was aligning the cultural values, because the corporate cultural values in Africa, where I come from, is completely different from the Australian corporate values in different aspects. For example, in my case, it was more of how we address authority. In Africa, people are referred to as Mr. So-and-so, Superintendent so-and-so, Madam, and all this. Yeah. But when we go to Australian space, workspace, it is more laid back. We refer them to as, you would just go like, hi Tom, hi Daniel, and it's fine, it's perfectly fine. Yeah. So it took me a little bit of time to get into that, to understand how it works, to understand the formalities, but most importantly, to understand the structure, the organization structure, how it works, how it fits in. And once you understand that, it goes really, really well and you can perfectly fit in. What do you think, Stella, in your case?
Oh, cultural differences is a huge one for me, because I will go to just the usual. For example, the dress code, the hair. Like for me, I struggle to wake up sometimes. If my hair is not made, if I have not had time to make my hair over the weekend, honestly, I feel like chucking a sickie, because I'm not going to the office with my hair in its natural form with a big afro, because we're not gonna work that day. We're only gonna be talking about my hair. Like, so I actually had a time whereby I changed my hair from just the open hair that I have now and put some long braids, and everybody is asking from the manager, hey, your hair grew overnight, what's going on there? I'm like, it is so uncomfortable, and I understand it's different and it's okay to ask questions out of curiosity, but don't make me feel a certain way, because I can tell when something is, you're just asking out of curiosity, that you're really genuinely interested to know, as opposed to you're trying to make me feel a certain way because my hair is different, or my, or not being taken seriously because of your dress code or your hair. And, culture for me is a huge one. So I was actually also reading Michelle Obama's latest book, and she was talking about code switching, and that's a discussion we had with you. So how has been your experience regarding code switching?
Yeah, guys, the pressure to fit in is unreal. Sometimes for most of us Black women, you get into an organization and yet you're the only Black person, or you're the only Black woman in your own department. So the first thing that kicks in is the overthinking. You're constantly thinking, will I be accepted? Will I be, will they accept me? Will they like me? Will I be able to fit in? So in the lines of thinking of being accepted and fitting in, you start code switching. For me, it was a case of trying to change my accent. For example, I do have a strong Kenyan accent, and that tells my story. That's fine. But then you find out that when you just flow in your own accent, people either pretend not to understand you or try to correct you constantly. And if you're not careful, that can really influence your self-esteem, your self-confidence. So a number of Black women did raise that as a factor, the pressure to fit in, by doing things like changing your hair color, changing your dressing style, and some go to an extreme of changing their skin color just to be able to, avoid standing out, be able to look like someone else. I'm not sure what your experience has been in that case, Stella, but I think it's such a challenge.
Absolutely. Yes. And that brings me to also, I feel like we also have heightened imposter syndrome. Because of that struggle of you're always second thinking yourself and thinking, well, am I good enough? Do I fit in? Because when you're in an environment or in a meeting and you're the only person who looks different, with a room full of, white men and Caucasian women, it can be hard. It can be really, really hard. And I know a lot of people in corporate space have the imposter syndrome, whereby you think of, today they're going to discover that I'm not as good as I am. That happens. But I think ours, it can be a little bit heightened because of those, the lack of self-esteem, the lack of being taken seriously. I've had experiences whereby we're in a meeting and I have raised a point, and you can see that this is actually an important aspect, maybe a challenge that we're experiencing as a company, and you're trying to provide solution and it's not being taken seriously. Your points are sort of being swept under the table. However, your colleague raises the same point, literally stealing your idea, and it's pin drop silently. Everybody is listening to them.
Exactly.
And in your head, you start to think, wait, wasn't that what I was just saying? Which can be very disheartening. And also sometimes, speaking about, again, culture, what comes to mind is the fact that most of us are quite introverted.
Yes.
So you find Western people or white people or people who live in Australia, because of their culture, they are very extroverted. They are able to bring out their points very strongly, whereas most of us have a bit of a different demeanor, whereby we approach people, especially our supervisors, with a lot of respect. You're talking about sir, madam, Mr. Whereas them, they don't care really about how they are perceived, because they've been already told they are enough. So they have that extroverted nature, which sometimes can be because of your nature, you can be seen as if you don't know much. You don't participate. For example, for me, when in a meeting, I would not participate unless I have a very valid point to speak. Whereas for them, the meeting will not come to closure before they air their ideas.
Absolutely.
So it can be very conflicting and very challenging at the same time. Yeah. So I think, with cultural differences and fitting in, that is quite huge. Is there any other challenge that is worth mentioning today, do you reckon?
Yes. Another challenge that I think it's important that we bring across today is that lack of acceptance. You find that most Black women hold different positions like managers of facilities or branches or maybe banks, but then they don't really feel that they are very well recognized. They don't feel like they are well accepted. They don't feel like they have that support that gives them, that confidence to do their role as they should be. For example, a friend of mine did mention that as a facility manager, she worked in aged care as a branch manager, but on several occasions, she constantly had to validate herself, like explaining to most people that I'm the manager of the facility, whereas her white counterparts, I don't think they would be able to validate themselves by showing people the badge that I'm the manager or I'm the branch manager of the facility.
It's assumed that they hold the position because of their color, whereas if you're a Black person, you have to say, I'm the manager.
Exactly. That pressure to validate yourself constantly. On the other hand, a number of Black women also feel that they have to work twice as hard as their white counterparts to be able to get the same treatment. And when it comes to recognition or remuneration, they're always passed. I mean, they don't get the value for what they work for. They don't get that recognition. I don't know, maybe it's an overthinking or an oversight on my part, but I feel that a lot of Black women out there are very well experienced. They have very good qualifications, but they're really scared of taking top positions because they are not sure if they will get the support. They are not sure if they will be supported or they will be, they'll get that recognition or respect. Also, another good example that I'd like to mention is my sister is a nurse. Most of the time she has to explain herself or validate herself when families of the patients or the clients she looks after comes in and are looking for a nurse. Sometimes they just go like, are you the carer or where's the nurse? And most of the time she has to show her badge. Yes, I'm the nurse. I'm the nurse on duty. How can I help you? And even after saying that, sometimes they come back and roll their eyes or they're like, really? And that is quite something. I mean, we can take it lightly, but things like that over a period of time, it takes toll of your self-esteem if you're not careful. Absolutely. It takes toll of your confidence if you're not careful. So it does happen. A lot of people have raised that. I'm not sure if you have had the same instance. Tell us if you've had anyone explain such an experience to you. But,
absolutely. In terms of, career progression, there's the issue of moving the goalpost, whereby if, for example, in my team there's maybe supervisor role or team leader or senior accountant role or any other position you can think of, and a person of color puts themselves up for that position, you will hear them being told, oh, you don't have this qualification, but you don't have this qualification. But you're like, excuse me, the person who held the role before didn't have those qualifications either. Why now that when this person of color is actually putting themselves forward for that position, they require all these other extra? And it's quite reaffirming because, again, in the light we carry, Michelle Obama talks about people moving the goalpost for people of diverse backgrounds, and hence they are not able to attain those levels of promotion despite their qualifications. I'll say especially in our field, most of us bring our work home to work on weekends. We basically outperform ourselves.
That's true.
So much, and we lack to get that career progression and that acknowledgement of their work just because of, I would call it discrimination based on your cultural background. Yes. Yeah, that is quite huge. And I will say that the good thing is that in Australia, a lot of organizations are working towards sort of mitigating these issues. They're working towards creating a more diverse workplace. I know that is one of our big strategy in the organization that I work for. But sometimes I get puzzled by the fact that yes, you're steering diversity. However, for example, in the board of the organization, there's not even one woman of color.
Yeah.
So how are you telling me that diversity is key, is part of your goals and strategy for the organization, but you're not going to put a woman of color in the board to be one of the decision makers? So I reckon we have a long way to go. And I think what we would ask you as we wind up is, what do you think as a woman of color, or a man for that matter, or a person of a different multi-diverse community would be able to navigate these challenges?
Yeah, also, in addition to that, most of us Black women find it hard to have that work-life balance, because we do not have that family support system that our counterparts have. For example, in my case, I've only got a sister here, but I can't really rely on her to look after my child. I've got a little one. I work full time. At some point, I had to take my studies, professional studies, on the other hand, CPA studies. And it can be overwhelming when you don't have that support.
Oh my God,
I know of a number of Black women who would like to progress in their careers, who would like to take on extra courses so that they are able to be ahead in their careers, but they don't have that support because they are raising their kids alone.
And the time.
Yeah, and they don't have the time to balance. So, that is quite a challenge. But I believe that with the work from home programs coming in place, maybe that will offer opportunities for a lot of Black women out there to get into the professional workforce and to be able to progress in their careers in different ways. Yeah,
thanks for bringing up that up. Yeah, work-life balance can be quite hard, as of course, as well as making people experience various mental health issues, because you have no time for yourself. You're bringing work home, you either working odd hours, and that can indeed be challenging. So other than working from home as a new program, are there any other pathways that you think that people can explore to be able to navigate those challenges?
Yes, working from home is one of them, but the other one is social networking. A number of us have corporate bodies, professional bodies. For example, in accounting, we have CPA, and they have a lot of platforms out there that have members with similar interests, talking about same things. Talking of ways to progress in careers. So you can find, check them out, for example, platforms on Facebook, join such groups, talk to people, your peers, ask them what else you'd like to do. If they can be your mentors or any ideas that they can give you. But most importantly, just keep adding value onto what you already have. Keep going out there, reading, looking out for ways that you can be more confident in your area and know more, increase your knowledge. I think that's what I have.
Yeah, absolutely. So in that regard, you can also reach to us. Please share in the comments any challenges that you have experienced, and we hope to bring you more stories down under. And do not forget to to interact with us. We'll put up our details, including our LinkedIn and our emails. That way you can reach out to us, and let's keep talking. I know as women of different backgrounds, we can really uplift ourselves and create those platforms that we are looking for, to be able to actually speak about these challenges and to find solutions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much for watching. Do you have any parting shots?
The parting shot is that keep watching, keep giving us your thoughts, keep giving us your ideas, but most importantly, try as much as possible to work along your area, do what you're comfortable with, but most importantly, reach out to your networks, and we are here anytime.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you again, guys. Adios.